Okay, welcome to Office Hours 2 for COIS FRSC 2750, Computer Crime and Forensics. Thank you very much for coming out, guys. I appreciate it. I hope it adds value, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I'm going to start off with a very brief, hopefully very brief recap of what I covered last week for the people that either joined late or didn't attend the office hours or didn't watch the video or whatever. So I am still getting questions saying something like, I can't see the quizzes, what's going on? And the answer is simple. If you can't see the quizzes, it means you haven't successfully completed both of the mandatory elements. So the first one is to have completed the academic integrity module and submit to me a screenshot as detailed in the question, showing your success. You have to have done that this year. You don't have to do it over and over again. If you did in September, that's fine. You can find that under your courses, and you just have to do a screenshot showing me the score. If, on the other hand, for whatever reason, you didn't do the academic integrity module in September, you'll need to do it now. Again, you can find it under courses, and there are 3 modules. You have to get 5 out of 5 in all 3 modules and submit the screenshot proving that to me. Make sure you include your name. Even though in the instructions I have that in bold and red, there is still 10% of the students that submit it without their name. I need the screenshot to include your name so that I know that it was you that did the academic integrity module, okay? So that's element 1. The second element is we have a 24 question, what I call the mandatory course requirements quiz. It covers mostly material that's straight out of the syllabus, plus a little bit of APA formatting. There are 2 questions on that. They are undoubtedly experienced as the most difficult questions by students. I do provide under the course content general tab a link to the OWL Purdue site. The questions come straight out of there. I've used examples straight out of there, changing names and authors' names and book names and stuff like that. But you can check against that web page. There's also a really, really good video on how to do APA formatting that's provided there as well from our academic skills group. The reason I do this, I do get this question periodically. The reason I insist on doing the APA formatting is because I require it in discussions. And I got really tired of having to correct that over and over and over again. So I just deal with it right up front in the beginning of the course. So if you haven't got 24 out of 24 and 1 out of 1 for those 2 requirements, you will not be able to see the quiz. Okay. The quiz, the mandatory course requirements quiz, the 1 out of 24, you get 5 attempts per week to do that. So there are currently 10 attempts available. If you run out of attempts, you get to wait until the following week to try again. I do that because people were using 45 and 50 attempts and randomly guessing. I expect more from university students. I expect you to be able to read a page on the internet, compare it, do some analysis, and figure out the right question. That is the expectation. I will not be giving anyone any free additional attempts for any reason at all. So please be diligent. Please do your homework. Please figure out what the answer is and answer it. It should not be too high a threshold for most people. And in fact, most people in this course that have attempted it are successful. There are a few people that are struggling with it. I will leave that up to you to get some peer support or do additional research or whatever in order to understand how APA formatting works. Okay. We will be offering a course that will include that starting in the summer. It won't do you guys any good for this course, obviously, but it is something that I will be addressing at length, where I will actually walk people through how to do APA formatting. Okay. So is there a Discord group chat for this class? I would recommend to you guys, you have a discussion board that the general discussions tab. I would someone should set that up, or some people should set that up, or whatever mechanism you want to do that, you guys can get together. The caveat, of course, is when it comes time for exams and things like that, including the midterm, you cannot be doing it as a group. That is a requirement. It's an open book midterm, but the requirement is to do it alone. And if that is obviously an academic integrity violation, and I've done those investigations before, and large numbers of people that were in a group were subject to penalties for that. So just a caveat. I don't expect that that's the intention, but do not engage in trying to group write the midterm or final or anything else. Okay. So yeah, those are the two requirements in order to see the quiz. Please check your grade book. That's just general advice. We will be putting in very detailed comments and feedback into the discussions so that you can get better and better at them. But if you don't check your feedback through your grade book, you're never going to get that information. So please do so. Before I get into talking about the discussions, are there any questions? Anything that I can help anyone with that they want answered sort of publicly? I'll hang around at the end and answer individual questions, even if we have to do breakout rooms or whatever, if you want to talk to me privately. But very confused about the replying aspect of the discussion. Yeah, I'm definitely going to take care of that in detail, Madison, very, very shortly here. I was just giving people a chance. This was kind of a recap of things that I'd already said last week, in case there was anything that was outstanding or not understood or more detail was required. Okay, I'm going to assume for now, I mean, you can always ask later. I'm going to assume for now we're good with sort of the general flow of what's going on in the course. So we are in week 2, and what is due tomorrow at 11:59 is the chapter 1 quiz, okay? And it won't open past 11:59:00. I've explained my rationale last time, but if Blackboard says it's late, I treat it as late, and I don't accept late submissions on quizzes, okay? And then the other thing that's due on Friday, tomorrow at 11:59:00 is discussion 1, post 1. So let's just talk about discussions in general. I'm just scrolling through. This information is generally found in the syllabus and in the question itself. So I'm just going to go to a discussion. So your discussions can be found under groups, topics, that menu item on the left-hand side. You'll be part of, there are 12 different discussion groups. You'll be part of one of them, along with about 30 people. Okay, so there's about 30 people per discussion group. So in there's group tools and the group discussion board. And what you'll see is a question that is just kind of sitting there for you to answer. And the idea is that you will read the question, you will do your answer before you see anyone else's answer. So nothing will be visible except for the question when you get to that point. So when you do get there, the instructions are I'm just going to go over the instructions. I'm not going to read the question this week. Read and understand the question and address it fully in all its aspects. Make sure before you hit the final submit button that you've answered all the questions. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 questions that I've included there. Make sure you cover it fully. I can't give you full marks unless you cover all the questions. Doesn't mean you have to cover them equally or anything like that. One may be just a very simple answer, and others may be more complex, but cover everything, please. You're going to need to use 3 or more supporting sources in APA format. So that means 3 references, and they have to be cited at least once in the body of your text. Okay, doesn't do any good to write this fantastic mini essay and just give me a list of references without citing it inside. Okay. I need to understand why you've come to those conclusions. I say I, but obviously I have a team that assists in marking, and the same thing applies for them. When they read it, when you make some sort of a statement, you need to back it up with a citation, and that citation has to point to something in your reference list. Okay. Use good, like a solid rationale. You're going to use additional facts. This is outside of the reading material that is the course. Okay. It's purposefully done so that you're going to be answering questions that aren't really covered in the core text. I want to broaden your experience and broaden your horizon and make you think about things that aren't contained within the text. Okay. So to that end, use some sources outside the textbook and course lectures. I prefer that all of your sources be outside the textbook, but I don't absolutely insist on that. Okay. Take a look at your spelling, your grammar, read it, and make sure it reads well. Use paragraphs. This is a formal submission. It's not very big. It's around 500 in various places, 500, 600, 700 words. No more, certainly no more than 700 words, but 500 is what you should aim for. If you come in at 475 and you've got good content, that's great. I'm not going to penalize you for being a little short on content. If you have 500 words and you mostly waste time with them, you do flowery descriptions and insert a whole bunch of spacer text just to beef up your word count, you're not going to do well in the content marking. Okay, the content marks. So you can use the preview button to see how your post is going to look. Remember that Blackboard is evil. If you haven't figured that out, it's true. It will try and butcher any formatting. So if you do your answer in Word and then you copy and paste it into Blackboard, it's going to kind of show up randomly. Blackboard's going to make up, it's going to put weird fonts in and weird font sizes and all sorts of stuff. So what you should do is use Control-Shift-V to, when you go to paste it from your Word, if that's where you're working, into your Blackboard, so that strips all formatting, and then reapply the formatting the way you want it once you, like within Blackboard, using the buttons within Blackboard. Okay. So that's the original submission. So you won't be able to see anyone else's. You'll take a look at that question, and then you'll enter a response to that. Once you've entered a response, you're going to be able to see everyone else's response. And what you're going to do with that is you're going to read a few of them, or as many of them as you want, and you're going to find one to respond to. The format and requirements are exactly the same. So I'm looking for about 500 words, 500, 600, 700 words. And I'm looking for 3 cited references. I'm looking for good grammar, good spelling, all that kind of stuff. Don't write in first person, even if an opinion's asked for. So first person is, I saw this, I did that, he did this, she did that, we did this, those sorts of things. Don't write it from your perspective. If I ask you for an opinion, state it as a fact. So if I say, in your opinion, is the grass green? Or is that, in your opinion, is that a good thing to do? Don't say, in my opinion, it's a good thing to do. Say, this is a good thing to do, and then give me a rationale for why it's a good thing to do, followed by citations that prove the rationale, that support your opinion. Okay. So someone's got a mic open. I'm not sure who, just a heads up. So avoid first person and state things as facts and prove your facts with your citations and your references. So it's only the first, so discussion 1, post 1, that's due on Friday. So that's your response to my question. The next one is due, discussion 1, post 2 is not due until the following Friday. And that's when you're going to look at your peers in your group and respond to one of them. So my suggestion there, my advice there is find something that you don't entirely agree with, or that you can add to. So if someone does an absolutely tremendous post and you don't have anything to add, it's really hard to write 500 words without adding anything, right? So probably someone that's thought-provoking and has made you think in a new direction, or that you disagree with. It's fine to disagree. Obviously, you're not rude about it or anything like that. You provide your opinion as fact with support, right? In responding to that person. So my advice again is to read a few, find one that's easier to respond to. Again, some people do some tremendous posts. They're all encompassing. They've got the topic locked down, and it makes it difficult to respond to them. But I do ask them to put everyone to put a question at the end that you could respond to as well. So you can either respond to the body of their post, or you can respond to the question that they've posed to you. And just find something that works for you, that you can put 500 words of comment to, because you'll have, let's say 25 different choices, assuming 5 people don't respond at all and the other 25 do, right? Does that answer, does that clarify things for you, Madison? Is there anything beyond that continues to be confusing? I see your question in here. Where does the citations come in when responding to that person? Same as anything. You're going to offer additional facts. You're going to offer contrary facts or supporting facts, and you're going to do some research to do that. It's not just an opinion. It's not, oh, I think your post is really nice, I agree with everything you said. It's, okay, that person said that this is how something works. Well, they missed this. I would like to add that, and then with that, you have a source to prove that. Okay. So, do the in-text citation count towards the word count? I get asked this all the time. Good question. I don't care. And I say that because I don't care if you give me 475 words, as long as you give me good content. I don't actually count the words. I'm trying to give you a guideline by 500 or 600 words, as that is how many words it takes to get the amount of content that I'm looking for. I don't want someone to do 2,000 words either. That's way, way, way too much. But you can count them or not count them. It's never going to come down to that. I'm never going to say you did 480 words, excluding the citations, or 490 with the citations. I'm never going to do that. So it doesn't matter is the answer. Okay. Is the reply answering the question at the end, or is it general response to the original post? It's either one of those things. So you have a choice or a combination. You can respond to the person's original post, or you can respond to their question, or you can respond to both. Typically people would choose one or the other, but I won't restrict you to that. What I'm really looking for, and what all the workshop leaders are looking for, is a well-written, coherent, well-researched response. Not so much what you responded to. In fact, we don't get to see when the way that we mark, the view that we have that we mark, we're not seeing it in thread view. So we don't actually see the post that you're responding to, but by the way you write your response, we can mark it. Okay. Where does the citation come when I respond to that person? I hope I've covered that. If not, let me know. Do we need at least 3 citations on the responses as well? Yes. So the requirements are 100% identical between post 1 and post 2. 500 or 600 words, 3+ cited references. Okay, so they're exactly the same. And that's one of the things, like I've marked thousands of these posts I've been marking posts in this course since 2014. So I've seen literally thousands. One of the things that people don't seem to get is that the requirements are the same in both. Okay, so it is exactly the same requirement in both the original response and the response to appear. Okay, makes sense. Okay, good. I like that. Are there any other questions about anything? Actually, is there any other questions? Anything I haven't covered anything that's unclear at this point about the expectations for the course? Feel free to jump in with audio if you prefer that to typing out a response. Feel free to private message me, and I won't say who asked the question, but I will deal with the question. What type of question do we put at the end? Well, what I say about that is an interesting question. I think that's in the instructions. I think that's how I usually characterize it. At the end of your original post, add an interesting question for your classmates to answer. So a good question, and we don't mark the question, meaning that, if you put a really crappy, uninteresting question, you don't lose marks for that. It's to try and provoke discussion. Okay, what we're trying to do is replace the fact that we're not all sitting in a classroom together once or twice a week and having discussions and learning that way. So that's the purpose of these discussions, is to both broaden the content away from just the textbook, which is a pretty technical textbook, into sort of more real world stuff and hopefully more interesting stuff, and to provoke discussion. So an interesting question, ask someone to think about something that maybe they haven't thought about. Avoid, if you can, a yes/no question. It makes it really hard if you ask a question and they can answer yes or no. That's hard to get another 499 words after that, right? So ask them something that maybe occurred to you when you were writing. Just something to provoke discussion. And quite honestly, don't sweat it. Come up with a question that you think is at least decent, that someone might enjoy answering. Go ahead, Devin.
Hi there. I just had a question about the quizzes.
Mm.
I did mine earlier this week, and I was just looking for feedback on it. When it opens up, or sorry, when it closes for everyone on Friday, will we be able to go back and see what errors we made?
You won't. So
Okay.
I'll explain my philosophy on that. It's a great question.
Sure.
My philosophy is this. First of all, it's a fairly small textbook. I hand wrote all the questions, and you're going to see the same questions or some of the same questions from the same pools in both the midterm and the final. So I don't want to, and I'm perfectly aware that professors' questions and answers get posted online in various websites. So I don't want to come out and give those answers. And that's why I have to protect them. So I use the quizzes as a way for you to sort of test your own understanding. I encourage you to copy, whether it's a screenshot or whatever, the questions that you see so that you can refer to them again and use them as a study aid. But I don't confirm the answers to any of those quizzes. So if you get them perfect, I mean, that's great, right? You'll know, and that's not a threshold too far. There's lots of people that will get the quizzes perfect because they're open book and you can go and research in the book as you answer them. There's no time limit on the quizzes. So anything you get perfect, you're going to know those answers 100% for sure, right? So,
okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Yep, good question. So yeah, I know I bounce around. I'm answering Sasha's question now. The syllabus says no more than 500 words in the discussion post, but you mentioned having around 500 to 700 words. Can you please clarify? No, this is just me being me. The minimum that I'm looking for is 500 words. Again, I've said here, if it was 475, I don't care. But if you hand in 300 words, unless you're an incredible writer, Ernest Hemingway level, where you can put an awful lot of information in very few words, it's not going to be enough content for me. Okay. The instructions in the discussion say 500 or 600. I say 500 or 700 because I'm just putting some slack in there. But if you hand in a well thought out 475 or 500 or 525 word answer, you're going to do just fine. And whether that includes your reference list as well, all those words in there or not, is totally irrelevant. Does that help you, Sasha? I know I'm a bit vague, but it's only because I don't care as much about just a word count, because it encourages students just to put in a bunch of baloney, spacers, fillers, things to make it to a word count. I'm looking for good, interesting content. Does that help you out, Sasha? Thanks. Okay. All right. Can your discussion group see who wrote each submission? Yes, they can. Yeah, that's, I guess, a good question. Your name will be at the top of your post. They will be able to see that. And I only know that, again, I see things differently because I'm in the instructor view, but I know in the past people have addressed people and say, I'll use Madison's name, really good post, Madison, and so forth. I discourage that sort of personal, interaction, but people do it, and that's fine. They're being polite and everything. I'm more looking for a scholastic response, but yes, they can see your submission. So I want to remind everyone too, if you look at the syllabus, it is best 4 out of 5 for the discussions. So don't get too bent out of shape if you don't do well on the first one, but do read the feedback. We will give you really detailed feedback on the first couple of discussions so that you have a good idea of where we think you're going wrong and where you can improve that. So we not only will we do that, but your second post for discussion 1 isn't due until next Friday. So that is probably the 27th. I'm just checking my calendar here. That's the 27th. We will get you feedback before the first post is due the following week. So the first post for discussion 2 is due the next week on the 3rd of February. We will try and have those out by Wednesday or Thursday at the latest with your feedback, so that you will have the opportunity before you do another post to see how we received your first 2 posts, right? Your first discussion, which is 2 posts, 1 and 2. Okay. When it says to list examples of the offenses, okay, specifically to the question, does this mean offenses from criminal code or offenses as actions that the person might have committed when doing the crime? Okay, so let me just go back to the discussion here. So essentially the question gives 4 scenarios, asks you to choose one and describe. And then the question goes on to say, describe specifically 2 examples of what the offenses could be, commenting whether or how they would rise to the level of a criminal offense. So because don't take the use of the word offense too literally in this case, it doesn't have to be like, some of these are not going to be criminal offenses. For instance, sorry, I'm just looking at examples here. Employees may violate company policy through the improper use of computer resources. So without giving you an example of that, whatever they're doing to do that violation would be considered an offense, but it's not a criminal offense. And then the question goes on to comment on whether or how they would rise to the level of a criminal offense. So is there a way that an employee violating the company policy through the improper use of computer resources could rise to the point where they're actually going to face criminal charges? That's what I'm asking you to look at. But there could be, I mean, if we look at the second choice, a company-owned computer may be used in the commission of a crime/violation. So if it's used in the commission of a crime, it's already an offense, right? So it's already a criminal offense. Does that help with that question? I don't want to name the person because it was a direct message. Yes. Okay. Anyone else, if that's not clear, chime in, please. So the discussions are not meant to be answered in first-person writing. Yep. But it is fine to ask questions that may require our peers to give their arguments in first person. No. No. So no matter what the question is, if your question is asking someone for their opinion, then they have to state that as a fact. Okay. I suppose someone could ask about someone's experiences, and that would be difficult not to write in first person because it's obviously your experience, but I would avoid that. What I'm trying to do is have people get in the habit of not writing in first person for academic. Like if you read peer-reviewed papers, they're not in first person. So this is an exercise partly in teaching you guys how to write better. Okay, so first person writing is great for novels and things like that. It's good for blogs and fluff pieces and things like that. It's not good scholastic writing in general. Again, the caveat to that is some people are incredible writers, usually not, quite honestly, at the second year university level. They're not usually incredible at that point, but there may be people that are, and they can get away with writing things in first person. But what usually happens in my experience when people write in first person is they put in too much narration. In my personal opinion. So first of all, that's just way too many words. And it's kind of a meaningless little 5-6 word, whatever that is, segue that doesn't add any value to what you're about to say. Okay. So that's why that's the reason I discourage it. Just to work on writing quality. Okay. Hi, sir. Wondering whether the response discussion next week will have a limit regarding how many people can respond to a single discussion. It will not. If there's an incredible question or an incredible comment or a highly controversial post in your group and everyone responds to it, that's fine. No issue with that whatsoever. Any other questions? Okay, hopefully things are pretty clear. Next week, when we meet again, I suspect that once people have seen the discussions and are responding to other people, that they may have additional questions. I try to avoid sort of responding to the things that I cover. I do avoid responding to the things that I cover in office hours. You guys are obviously present and are aware of what we're talking about, but students that miss the office hours will ask me questions that I've already just covered, and I just don't have time to respond to 350, 375 students or any reasonable number thereof to answer the questions that I've already covered. So that's why, don't be offended down the road if you ask me a question, you haven't watched a couple of office hours, or you haven't attended them. I've covered something new that we're doing, and I say, watch the office hours. That's just saving the time of writing out the same answer over and over and over again to a whole bunch of students. So and again, I know that the people that are here are not the people that need to hear that, but hopefully a couple people will watch this afterwards, so that things move smoothly and they do well in the course. How technical does our response have to be when it comes to the digital investigator? How the digital investigator will recover the evidence? That's a great question. It doesn't have to be technical at all. I don't expect this to be very technical. This is just to get you thinking. As we go further in the course, things will be a little more technical, not super technical in the discussions, technical enough in the quizzes, because there's a lot of technical material in the course, but I'm not expecting you really to know anything about digital investigations at this point. So, use Google Scholar if it pertains, or if you can find something useful there. But I don't expect you to be very technical at all. I'm not looking for a really technical response. I'm just looking for a well thought out response with as much information as you reasonably can get without knowing anything technical about digital forensics at this point. I know you said you want the references to be specific, but do you want us to reference actual computer crime cases or news stories where incidents have already happened? Or do you want more like general references of things that could happen? No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, good question. Thanks, Noah. It's entirely up to you, is what I would say. I try and leave things very, very broad. If it helps you to do research on a specific incident and refer and talk about that incident, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. If you have a good imagination or good general knowledge and you can figure out sort of the things, for instance, a company-owned computer may be used to store contraband material. What does that mean? What's contraband material? What are we talking about there? If you can envision that or understand what that means without referring to a specific, Smith versus whatever, the Queen versus Smith or whatever, like a actual criminal case, that's fine. That's fine. If on the other hand, it's easier for you to do a Google search and look at case law, which also comes up in Google Scholar. There's a button there for case law. If you want to read summaries of cases and that helps you, that's fine too. Whatever way you want to approach it is absolutely fine by me. But I'm not requiring you to reference a specific legal case or anything like that, or headline case or whatever. That helps. Okay, good. Yep, excellent. All right, guys. I think I've covered most things. If you have more questions, I'll happily stick around and deal with them. If there's a private question that you want sort of one-on-one, I can do it by a breakout room and we can have a private chat. Happy to do that. If none of those things apply, please get on with your evening. You have my gratitude for showing up and participating in this. It really helps. It helps other people. It helps you. It helps keep us all on track, make sure the expectations are understood. And I'm sure you'll do very well in the course if you keep that approach up. So thank you very much. Have a good evening, and I'll talk to you guys next week.